Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the Bird's Nest Podcast. I'm Joe Donahue. Thank you so much for joining us as the Philadelphia Eagles get ready to start the offseason program in just a few weeks, and with the NFL draft just around the corner, the Eagles have been bringing fans in for unique behind-the-scenes experiences, including talks with players and a peek at Lincoln Financial Field. These tours are presented by TickPick, the official fan experience partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. They are not a sponsor of this video, but these tours allow fans to see some really cool spaces within Lincoln Financial Field without having to gather a large group of friends for a private tour of the stadium or be a season ticket member like we've seen over the course of the last couple of years with the Eagles offering special experiences for season ticket members. Now, the Eagles held one of these experiences this past Friday, featuring a one-on-one with friend of the show Dave Spadaro and Eagles QB1 Jalen Hurts. Now, prior to the conversation, fans were treated to a behind-the-scenes tour of Lincoln Financial Field, where fans were welcomed with a video message from Eagles president Don Smolensky and Eagles defensive end Brandon Graham, as well as a walk past some of the smaller office areas of the stadium and into the lower levels. Fans got to see some of those areas in person, like the press room, the interview room, the memory lane at Lincoln Financial Field commemorating major events over the course of its history, and of course, the Philadelphia Eagles locker room. Now, while I was there, I ran into friend of the show Dalton Holland and the guys from 302 Birds, and Dalton shared the part of the stadium tours that always stand out to him.
Every time going in that Philadelphia Eagles locker room is a unique experience. It stands out. It's a ton of fun. And you just feel what it's like to be an Eagle a little bit. The funny thing is this time that I noticed that I said to KJ is the Eagles logo, if you notice, was blocked off. You couldn't. Last time it wasn't blocked off, people were laying down on the carpet in front of it. That's how much people love this team. So I think they saw that last time in our TickPick video and were like, yeah, we need to block that off this time, because there's like a unspoken rule where you don't step on the logo in the locker room. But by far, every time you go in the locker room, you see Jalen Hurts' locker, you see where these guys played. It's a unique experience.
Now, no behind-the-scenes stadium tour would be complete without a step onto the field at Lincoln Financial Field. This field was in the midst of being prepared for the World Cup tournaments this summer, and the grass that was down for the most part was still the grass from the NFC wildcard game this past postseason, where the Eagles lost to the 49ers. But it will soon be replaced by the grass that will be used for the World Cup pitch. And of course, you have that locker room visit where you got to pose with the Lombardi trophies, and this time there was a little opportunity for photos with the Philadelphia Eagles cheerleaders, as well as with Swoop. Now, fans were treated to a cheesesteak dinner in the club level, but it was time for the main event later that evening, the conversation with Jalen Hurts, and you could tell fans were excited for him. Chants of MVP and your standard Eagles chants were happening as he came out, and it was definitely an engaging conversation between him and Dave Spadaro. There was a ton of insight that Jalen offered. We were kindly asked to not record video footage of the conversation, so I will not be able to share any footage with you of the discussion, but I do have a few quotes from the conversation. First things first, Jalen offered us some insights on Sean Mannion, the Eagles' new offensive coordinator, somebody who's a complete unknown to Eagles fans for the most part. He was previously the quarterback's coach for the Green Bay Packers, so Eagles fans definitely saw his work in Jordan Love, but Hurts shared that he's excited to work with Mannion more, saying, quote, "When it starts, you get a feel, you get to build, and I'm always going into it with the intentions of being hip to hip, so that's always my goal going into it. We've had a lot of change and guys coming through and guys coming and getting new opportunities and higher roles, but I've always come in with the mentality, let me learn as much as I can. Let me get hip to hip with these guys, so we can go out there and find ways to win at a championship level," close quote. Jalen also talked about his quarterback journey so far. He painted it as sort of a early portion of his early career and a later portion, kind of dividing it around the 3-year mark. He indicated that the first 3 years of his career were all about proving himself. Jalen told the fans that it was more so about proving the type of player that he can be and the type of player that he's capable of and who he can be, and that Jalen can play on this platform. Jalen also talked about the moment that his mindset started to change, especially surrounding Super Bowl 59, right around that 3-year mark, how he had nothing left to prove for himself. Jalen opened up and shared a bit of his emotions before Super Bowl 59, saying, quote, "I was always telling the guys, man, I always wondered what I'd do when I get this opportunity again on the stage, because that was what motivated me the most, is to get back on that stage and show that I am who I believe I am, and I can play at a high level. I am a quarterback, and all those things that they said I wasn't when I came out of college. And so when I came out of college, that was more of my motivation to show that I do belong. And I did that. But I didn't win. We didn't win that game. And that bugged me. And that shifted my mentality 180. Now, even though Jalen wasn't playing in the Super Bowl this year, he did have a chance to flex his flag football ambassador status this offseason. Jalen joined Tom Brady and a few other NFL players facing off against Philly area native Amir Brown and the rest of Team USA's men's flag football team in the Fanatics Flag Football Championship exhibition matchup. Team USA absolutely pummeled the NFL stars repeatedly. They went a perfect 3-0 in the tournament, and Jalen, the true competitor, definitely was disappointed about the loss. But he also highlighted some of the differences between the NFL and flag football. Jalen shared how he saw the strategy side of things when he said, quote, "We went out there and we just kind of drove down the field, dinking and dunking, and Tom comes in and throws a touchdown in the back corner of the end zone. It's like, okay, we've got something. And they come in the first play and they run a triple reverse and they knife it for 30 yards. So it's a different game." And that is definitely true. And NFL players were approved last offseason to try out for USA men's flag football team. So we'll definitely see how that pans out over the next few years. But this was one of the reasons why I was adamant that while NFL players should be allowed to try out for the team, they shouldn't necessarily be automatically granted those spots. Because again, you have guys like Amir Brown who are able to put together stellar performances, and you have a Team USA men's team that has really been clicking, and they showed their dominance against the NFL stars in that exhibition matchup. So we'll definitely see how that pans out. Jalen also talked about how defenses have changed over the years, which definitely makes sense given that defenses always catch up to offenses, which always wind up catching up to defenses. So you always have to be one step ahead. You always have to try to be growing and changing. And the fact that Jalen has picked up on some of the ways that he is seeing defenses grow and change over the course of his 6 years in the NFL is definitely evidence of the fact that he has that QB1 mindset, which is definitely something that needs to be remembered when you're sitting on a place like 94 WIP and criticizing him. Now, Jalen pointed out how in his early years there was more of a focus on the spot drop, but now he said that a lot of teams are doing pattern matching. So he said, quote, "It doesn't really matter what formation you're in, but just saying, hey, if he goes to the south, I'm passing them off to the backer. Or hey, I'm carrying this guy until a certain depth." Corners are playing totally different throughout the league. Jalen also pointed out that the coverages will change more than the fronts, because the fronts are going to be more reliant on the personnel that you have. And it's always good to see how players, especially your franchise quarterback, are able to pick up on these changes and able to explain these changes in a way that's easily dissectable, because that's going to result in a more cohesive offensive unit in responding to some of these changes from the defense. Now, during the conversation, fans were able to pass around Dave Spadaro's Super Bowl rings. He gets them since he's part of the Eagles staff, and this was definitely a cool moment for fans to experience. And as the conversation concluded, Jalen took photos with some of the fans while Dave kept the rest of the fans entertained. Now, as I spoke with Dalt afterwards, he confirmed that this conversation reinforced his confidence in the upcoming season and in Jalen Hurts.
I would say, yeah. I mean, anytime you hear Jalen Hurts talk, he takes time out of his day to meet with fans. I mean, for God's sake, we needed a retake of a photo. He was kind enough to take one with KJ. I think that just speaks volumes. I was already sold on Jalen Hurts, and after shaking his hand, looking at him in the eye, sold on him even more. Go Birds.
So, overall, fans had an incredible and unique experience on Friday when they got to hear their QB1 in a setting that isn't normally available. And we didn't even get to see all of the things that can be available on the tour of Lincoln Financial Field. Other areas that can be highlighted, especially in a private tour, are the press box, the sensory room, private suites, the broadcast booths, and other areas of the stadium as availability allows, though not all areas are on each tour. Fans can reserve tickets directly through the Eagles website. Again, this is in partnership with TickPick, the presenting sponsor of these tours. I'm sure that there are going to be more opportunities for these in-depth, in-conversation pieces with future Eagles players. So this isn't even the first one that the Eagles have done. The Eagles had, prior to Reed Blankenship leaving in free agency, a similar experience with Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship at Lincoln Financial Field. So let me know what you think in the comments below. What were your thoughts about the insights that QB1 shared with the fans on Friday evening? Let me know. And thank you so much to everyone for tuning into the Bird's Nest podcast. You can support the Bird's Nest podcast by liking and subscribing to Bird's Nest Media right here on YouTube, as well as by sharing to your social media pages. You can also find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, the Odyssey app, and iHeartRadio, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. Please visit birdsnestmedia.com for additional Eagles and NFL coverage. And if you feel so inclined to support us in a different way, you can find the link to our Patreon in the description below or at birdsnestmedia.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's go Eagles!